Hi guys, Harry here from the Art Gear Guy. Thank you so much for joining me today. As this month is Mental Health Awareness Month, I thought maybe I would share with you guys a little bit of how art quite literally saved my life. And I know I've spoke about it little bits here and there, but I thought I would make a video about it, and perhaps maybe it might help somebody who is suffering with mental health to go to a professional, go to a doctor, get seen properly, and hopefully maybe get themselves on the way to recovery, because mental health is such a it's such a horrible thing, not just for the person who has the mental health issues, that individual, but for their loved ones and family members around them who suffer just as much, if not more, in my case certainly, than the actual person with the mental health issues. So let's get into my story about this, and we'll see. We'll just see how it goes. So, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this is because some people have this idea in their head that only weak people can get, can suffer with mental health issues, and I wanted to just make sure that that myth is dispelled. So, when I was a young boy, so I was born in Belfast in Northern Ireland in the early 70s, right in the middle of when the Belfast was a war zone. We lived there till I was about 2, and then we moved to a place not far from Belfast called Newtownards. And then we moved from Newtownards when I was about 6 to Lisburn. And the reason why we moved there to Lisburn is because my dad was a prison officer, and he was a prison officer in one of the most notorious prisons in the world, which was the Maze, or it was also known as Longkesh, the Maze, or the H blocks. And so he worked there, and he was there during the most violent time, when the likes of Bobby Sands and people like that were going through their hunger strike and their dirty protest as well, which was them spreading their feces all over the walls of their cells and stuff like that, not eating. And so the prison wardens would have to go in and clean it all down every now and again, and it was a terrible time. And not only that, growing up in Northern Ireland as a prison officer's son, we were subjected to a lot of different things. So from the IRA, we had 2 letter bombs sent to our house. There was a campaign, the back end of the early 80s, I think it was, where the IRA would send letter bombs out to people's houses, prison officers' houses, or police officers' houses. And I can always remember my dad always saying to me, this was at a time when the postman would come round quite early in the morning. We were told never to go down and lift any of the envelopes, my sister and I. So on the occasions when it happened, my dad knew what to look for, took it out into the garden, and then called the RAOC, which was the Royal Army Ordnance Corps, and they disposed of it. Now, there was also other things. There was other threats. He got, not just him, anytime something like this happened, it happened to a lot of prison officers in our area. So he got a letter one time from the IRA saying that they knew what schools we went to. They knew what night my mum done her shopping. They knew where she did the shopping. They knew the car registration number, and lots of other details that only people who were watching him could know. And so we grew up, before we ever got into the car or anything like that, my dad had to look under the car to make sure there was no bombs. There was one time I had to go to the dentist, and it was out of hours, so it was in a really predominantly nationalist area. My dad had to bring his gun. That was a weird experience. I had my wisdom tooth coming through, and it was a Sunday, and so we had to go to this area where he should not really have been, because it was so dangerous. But that was the type of place that I grew up in. And growing up in Northern Ireland, we seen soldiers everywhere. didn't matter what time of the day it was or what day of the week it was. There was army checkpoints all over the place. There were soldiers patrolling the streets and things like that. And it was, for me, especially with my dad being a soldier, he was in the 5th Enniskillen Dragoon Guards before he became a prison officer, and his brothers as well were in the army. So I come from an army background, and I used to listen to my dad and his brothers talking about all these stories about their time and their different regiments and what have you. And it just, that with the soldiers on the street and stuff like that, I just always grew up from a very, very young age always wanting to be a soldier, to the point where when it came to us doing our GCSEs in high school, I wasn't interested in doing the exams. I told the teachers, I said, listen, I don't need these exams. I'm going into the army, and I'm going into the infantry, and you know, I'm going to be an elite fighting soldier. I don't need education for that, which was so stupid and so naive of me at the time. And so I would turn up for my exams, not in my school uniform, hoping to be turned away. But my teachers knew what I was doing, and so they would just go, "No, Ivor, you can just sit right down here and you can do your exam." So I actually came away with not too bad grades from my GCSEs, but it was, you know, it was something that I didn't put my mind to. My mind was set on going to the army. The army came to our school when I was about 14 or 15, I think it was, like a recruitment thing. And I got my mum and dad to sign the papers for me to join the army when I was 16. My mum reluctantly signed them, but she signed them in any case. So I eventually joined the army. So I left school in the June, and I was away to the army in the October. So I wasn't out of school very long, and then I was straight into the army, boy service it was called, and I loved it. I loved every single day of my life being a soldier. And obviously I went lots of different places. I done my training as a boy soldier, which was a year long. Here in the UK, soldiers that are going into just ordinary regiments will do like 6 months training. With us being kids, 16-year-olds, we done what was essentially a military boarding school. We still had to go and do maths, and we had to go and learn German as well, because obviously Germany was the biggest posting for the British Army at that particular time. So we had to learn German. And then the rest of the day was taken up with weapons and things like that. So the first Gulf War started, and that was an experience that scared the life out of me. I wasn't very old when that happened. But I was in my regiment, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. We went lots of different places. We seen lots of different things, and the experience that I had was phenomenal in the army. There were lads that were there that didn't really like it. They had only signed up for like 3 years. Whenever I had finished my training and went to the regiment, that's when you used to sign up for however many years that you wanted to serve for. And the thing back then was like 3 years, 6 years, 9 years, 12 years, 18 years, and then 22 years. And I immediately signed up for 22 years. I had no intentions of coming out of the army. My intentions were clear. I knew exactly where I wanted to go, what I wanted to be as a soldier. And I worked really hard to get there. I knew in my own head, like, you guys see me as an artist here, and you can clearly see I'm not very confident about what I do, about when I put things up and all the rest of it. I'm not very confident, and I'm going to answer a question that a lot of you guys, I know it might come across as me fishing for sympathy or anything like that, but this is absolutely not the case. I am not looking for sympathy ever. because I don't need sympathy. I'm absolutely okay. But I'm going to answer a question with the reasons why I don't see myself as an artist. I'll answer that in a second. But when I was in the army, I knew I was a good soldier. I was so confident in my abilities as a soldier, as a sniper, as anything I set my mind to, any course I went on, I was the best in the course. Anything that I did within my regiment, I always pushed to be the very best. And if I wasn't ever the best, I was either second or third out of a whole battalion. So I was, when I finished my training and I got to battalion, the battalion already knew about me because of the year that I'd done in boy service. And so sometimes what happens is you get groomed. So they'll bring you in and they'll push you forward on as many courses and promotion courses as possible, so that one day you become the regimental sergeant major of the battalion. And that's what my battalion was doing with me. They were grooming me for all these different positions, which was fine. That's exactly what I wanted. Then I met Vicki, and I'll quickly tell you how I met Vicki. So my mate came into the room one night and said to me, "Ivor, do you want to go across to the gym?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's go." But it wasn't, I thought he meant the gym inside the barracks, but he didn't. We were stationed in London at the time, and he wanted to go down to the gym in the King's Road, which is a very, very affluent area in London, because he wanted to see if he could pick up a girlfriend and stuff like that. So we went down to the gym. We were at the gym for a couple of hours, and then in true British Army squatty style, we come out of the gym, and right across the road there was a bar there called the Cadogan Arms. So we went to the Cadogan Arms, straight out of the gym, straight into the bar, a couple of pints. So my mate turns around to me and he says, "Right, there's two girls over there. It's your turn to go over and kind of like talk to them, see, chat them up type thing." So I was like, right, okay. So I seen these two girls, and I started walking over toward them. And as I was walking over toward them, there was these two guys at the bar. They had picked up drinks, and they just turned around and they had sat right down at the table that these two girls were at. So I just walked straight on past, went up to made it look like I was going to the toilet, and then just came back. And when I came back, I was at the bar a couple of minutes, and I got a tap on the shoulder. And it was one of the girls that was sat at the table, and she had said to me, Can you two just pretend that you are our boyfriends? These two French lads have sat down and won't leave us alone. So I was like, yeah. And that girl that tapped me on the shoulder was Vicki. And that was it. Now, at that time, my career was the only thing that mattered to me. And getting into a relationship was the very, very last thing on earth I wanted. I knew that when I get into a relationship, that is going to detract from the different things I want to do within the army. So anyway, I proposed to Vicki 4 weeks after that encounter. And I know a lot of people thought, I went back to the room, told all the boys and stuff like that there, and a lot of people were like, "My God, you're crazy. What have you done? This isn't like you. This isn't the thing that you wanted to do." So a lot of people thought that maybe Vicki was pregnant, and that was the reason why I was doing it. But of course, when we got married, we didn't have children for about 5 years after we got married. So had nothing to do with that. I just completely fell head over heels in love with her, and I couldn't get her out of my head, and I wanted to be with her for the rest of my life, and that was that. It was just something that happened. But when we were going out with each other, I said to her, I said, "Listen, my career," she had a career as well, and I was like, "My career is really important to me, and I'm going to be doing different things in the army," one of which was to pass the selection for the Special Air Service, which is kind of like the SAS is our version really of the Navy SEALs or the Army Air Rangers in America. More the Army Air Rangers. Our version of the Navy SEALs is another group called the SBS, which is I think it's a special boat squadron, or special boat service. I always forget what the last S is. It's either squadron or service. They're probably actually more secretive than the SAS. But anyway, I'd said there, this is what my plan is, and I'll be going to different places that I can't tell you about if I get in there and stuff. And she was like, no, I understand that, that's fine. So we got married about a year after I proposed to her, because I had to go away for a 6-month posting, and in that 6 months I didn't see her at all. So we weren't actually, before we got married, we weren't actually together together very long. And here we are now, 29 years, is it now? 29 years later, still married, still very much in love with each other, and 3 beautiful children. And so, it worked out for the best, and we proved a lot of people wrong. But anyway, my life was great, and I got to where I wanted to be, and I was this elite fighting soldier. And I knew that. I was really confident in that. And I had this thing in my head that nothing could hurt me. Nothing could hurt me. I was not going to get hurt. I was not going to get killed. Mental health and all that. It wasn't a big thing back then. But, people that were depressed, I just knew or I thought in my head, that can't happen to me. Surely that can't happen to me. I'm really happy. I've got a great job. I've got a wonderful wife. I love everything I do. I'm just too strong for that. That just wouldn't affect me. Then we went away, and I had my injury. I had my spine shattered and crushed, and that was it. In the click of a finger, that was it. Everything was over for me. I went through lots of rehabilitation. We have a place here called RAF Headley Court, and it's a rehabilitation centre for soldiers or sailors or Air Force guys that have been injured and need to be rehabilitated. And I had spent about a year there. I had to go for 3-month intervals. So I would go for 3 months, go back home, and then go back, and that type of thing. But they were all they were doing was just getting me ready to leave the army. But at the very first time I went to RAF Headley Court, I thought that they were getting me ready to go back to my battalion, which was stationed in Germany. My battalion was where I was in Germany at that particular time, so that we could get posted, because a lot of the stuff was in the Middle East. So our central posting was Germany, so we could get posted to wherever it was we needed to be quick. And I just thought, I just want to get back to the boys and get back into doing work. But obviously, the powers that be knew that wasn't going to happen. They knew from the damage and what have you that wasn't going to happen. I had spinal reconstructive surgery to put my spine together. It took months to get me walking again. But even then, walking still is incredibly painful. And then they told me I was medically discharged, and that was it. And there was nothing I could do about it. And my world at that point just completely shattered. It just completely fell out. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to support Vicki and I. And at that point, Neve was born, and I just didn't know what we were going to do. I felt useless as a husband, and I felt even more useless as a dad. And that kind of compounded itself even more when Jude was born, because here was my son. I had a plan in my head, when I have kids, I'm going to take them camping, going to teach them all these different things, I'm going to make sure they go to lots of different activities and all the rest of it. And there was so much of that I couldn't do with Jude or with the girls. But anyway, so I'd fallen into this seriously deep depression right after they medically discharged me, and I just couldn't see a way out of it. So I had a lot of pain medication at the time, and I had got up and got into the car, which I shouldn't have done because I wasn't allowed to drive at that time. I had a license and stuff like that, but because of my injury and because of my rehabilitation, I wasn't fully there yet, and so I wasn't really allowed to be in a car. But it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I drove to we were stationed, or I had come back then to Surrey, which is where I had my surgery. They done like my second surgery at a hospital called Royal Hospital Haslar, which is down in Portsmouth. It's a Navy hospital, but we were kind of like sent to Surrey. So I got in the car this night. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. We had a beautiful country park called Lightwater Valley Country Park, I think it was called. And I knew that because we had gone for walks there. We had 2 German Shepherds, and we had gone for walks there years before. And I knew that there were these 2 big World War II bunkers, I think they were, and they were pretty much underground, but you could still gain access to them. And I went there at about 2 o'clock in the morning and I had brought all this medication with me, and my plan was just to take it, and that was it, just go to sleep. And this is how selfish I was. So I went there thinking, hoping, thought in my head, right, Vicky's not going to find me. But a young kid could have came in there during the day and found a body. And how traumatizing would that have been to that child? But I wasn't thinking like that at that particular time. I was in such a deep depression. It was unbelievable. But I'd gone there that night with the plan. And the reason why I'd gone there was because it wasn't a cry for help. I didn't want help. I didn't need help. I'd had all, as far as I was concerned, I'd had all the help that they could give me. So the way I was the way I was. It wasn't going to change. So that's why I went there. It was isolated and what have you. I can't remember much, but I can remember like waking up in the morning, and obviously it hadn't worked. And I got back in the car, drove home, and obviously Vicki was worried. Vicki had no idea I'd gone out of the house, and when I came into the house, I kind of like collapsed. I walked upstairs, I collapsed on our bed, and initially she thought I'd been out drinking or something like that, and we had a lot of friends around us, like army friends, wives and stuff like that, and Vicki called one of the wives that was a nurse, and she came over, and initially she thought I'd just been drinking as well, but she eventually knew I hadn't. And then that was me. Then I'd been sent to Catterick Military Hospital, which is up here in the north actually, but it's for soldiers who have suffered severe trauma and were at that point. And I came up here for about I was supposed to be up here. I was supposed to be up in Catterick Military Hospital for about a month, but I discharged myself after about 2 days because, again, I had this thing in my head that, what I tried to do was just to put an end to things. It wasn't anything to do with depression or anything like that. This was the way I was looking at it. And all of the lads that were in Catterick Military Hospital, like, there was one lad, he would just sit in the chair and he would just move back and forward all day, like just rock like that. And I was like, I'm not like any of these boys. I don't need to be up here. I'm going home. But that was a really, really traumatic time in my life. But more importantly, for Vicki, she was the one that had to pull everything together, had to keep everything together, and at the same time dealing with me being so low, not helping out around the house, just doing stupid things like what I did. And so it was more traumatic for Vicki, I think. So then we moved up here to the northeast, out of the army. We had to move into social housing because I had about another 8 years, I think it was. About 8 or 9 years I had left to serve. But even then, had I got to the rank where I wanted to be, I could have stayed on for another 10 years as an officer. So it was just 9 years until 8 or 9 years until my 22-year service was up. But like I say, had I reached the rank that I wanted to, I could have stayed on. So we weren't prepared for coming out. We didn't have anything saved for mortgages and stuff like that. So we had to move into social housing. And at that time, Vicki was the only one that was working. Vicki was, and this is what I say a lot of the time. A lot of people look at soldiers like me, veterans who have been injured, and they go, these men and women are heroes. They've gone off. They've done this. They've done that. And now they're injured and they're stuck. So they're heroes. But the real heroes are the families, the kids, the wives, the husbands, whoever it is that is there, left there to carry everything on their back on their own. They are the real heroes. That's certainly the way it was for me. I was so ashamed of myself. I was so disgusted with I hated myself. Like I say, we moved into social housing, and where we were at that time, nobody around here really worked. Everybody was like on the dole, just collecting social services, and they were happy with that. This guy moved in across the road from me who was worked in a construction site, and he was the first one who had moved into the area that was a worker, that was a grafter, and that just made me feel even worse, because I thought, this guy's going to think I'm exactly the same as people around here who are happy sitting, taking handouts from the government rather than going up and trying to work and provide for their families and stuff like that. And it made me even worse. But now me and that guy are really good friends, and everything was fine. Everything was in my own head. So then moved forward to the art time. And I was still teetering on the edge. I was still at the point where I thought, I don't want to be here anymore. I just don't want to be here anymore. I am much more of a hindrance to Vicki and the kids than anything else. There were so many restrictions placed on the family that they couldn't do because of me. And no matter how hard I pushed to try and do things, like silly things like going for a walk along the beach, we could only go so far because of me. But I would push and push and push to walk further so that Vicki and the kids could have that fun time. And then the next week I would be laid up. I couldn't do anything because I had pushed myself so hard. And then that just made things even worse for Vicki. So I was still very, very much on the edge. And my eldest daughter, Neve, who is very artistic as well, the kids were at school, and when Vicki and the kids would go out to work in the morning, the kids would get upset because they knew that I was at home alone, and it upset them. And so Neve turned around one morning and said to me, "Daddy, why don't you take my arts stuff and just draw? See if that will make you happy." And that was the very, very beginning of this, all of this now. That little simple gesture from my daughter was what sparked it all off. And once I got into it, once I started looking around the internet, seeing what people could do, finding out that coloured pencils were such a wonderful medium, and not what I had thought they were at that time, which is just stationery that kids use for colouring in stuff on a colouring book. I had no idea how versatile the medium was. And for me personally, it was perfect, because when I get into a lot of pain, I can just stop what I'm doing. In fact, actually, the studio is an absolute mess. I've got 2 projects going on at the minute. I've got that desk and one behind me here. There's pencils and markers lying out all over the place, and it looks a mess. But it's okay, because those mediums... Hang on a second. Coda! You coming in? You coming in? Sorry, Coda wanted to come in. There, good boy. Sit down. So, the colour pencil medium was actually perfect for me. When I get into a lot of pain, I can just stop and I can walk away, and it's not going to, it's not going to dry up or anything like that. I don't have any preparation to do to start drawing. I don't have any cleaning up to do, cleaning brushes and stuff like that. Obviously, watercolours, I enjoy watercolours, but that's nowhere near the preparation and stuff that you need for acrylics or oils. So the mediums that I love are perfect for me. And so I just got swept away with the whole thing, art and the community, you guys. And then I started my own channel. Originally it was called Colour Pencil Reviews, and it was started with the aim of a newbie starting coloured pencils, and me kind of like sharing my experience of becoming a coloured pencil artist. And so obviously there's a good boy, lie down. Good boy. Oh, there he is. Oh, I love you. I love you too. You're a good boy. Yes, you are. Right? I know I love you. I do. You gonna get down so I can finish this? You gonna get down? Good boy. And like I say, so the community and the actual sitting down and drawing relaxes me and calms me down and takes my mind away from lots of other things. But also as well, it made me feel like I was contributing to the family again, because even though the money I get on from Google, from the YouTube, is minimal, it's like £150 or maybe £200 a month, because of the views I get and what have you. It still made me feel like I was helping out. It still made me feel that I was contributing something, and it wasn't just all being left to Vicki. And so that in itself made me much happier. It made me a much better father and much better husband for the kids and for Vicki to be around. And so that's why I say that, art quite literally saved my life. Now, the reason why I find it difficult to call myself an artist: when I was a soldier and I got to that elite level, I knew I was good at my job. I knew that I was an elite soldier in the British Army, a frontline combat soldier who was exceptional at his job. From a very early age, my mind was set on doing that, and I obviously got to where I wanted to be. With art, I think I fell into art, and there are times when I feel like I'm one of the reasons I'm not an artist is, like, a lot of people have gone to college or university and done a degree in art and have come out and are producing beautiful art, and then there's me who just steps into it accidentally. I don't feel like I have earned the right yet to call myself an artist. And that's not to say that I look at other people and think that they shouldn't call themselves artists either. It's got nothing really to do with the ability of my drawings or paintings or anything like that. It's more, I think, to do with what I have or haven't contributed to art in general, and I don't think I've contributed enough yet to be able to call myself an artist. And I have this thing in my head as well. I know what a soldier is, and that's what I was. And I have this preconceived idea in my head as to what an artist is, and I don't see myself yet as that. I don't see myself as an artist. And I know that preconceived idea that I have in my head of an artist is perhaps outdated, and it probably wouldn't fit most people who are into art in this day and age. But nevertheless, that is the reason why I sometimes say I'm not an artist. It like I say, it's not because I want people to go, "Oh, Harry, you're it's none of that. Hang on just 1 second. It's just simply that. So I think this video is going on really long here, so I want to wrap this up. Anyway, my message to anybody that's suffering with mental health: please do not feel that you are weak because whatever the issue is that has put you into that situation can happen to absolutely anybody, and has done over the years. There's lots of professional boxers and UFC fighters and what people would consider real tough guys. I know guys that have been in the SAS and other regiments, paras and things like that in the army, Royal Marines, that have ended up with severe PTSD and depression. So that idea that I have in my head that only weak people suffer with mental health issues was naivety on my part and stupidity on my part. It's absolutely not. Mental health issues can affect absolutely anybody. What I would say to anybody that thinks that they're going that way, or their family members say to them, "Listen, I think maybe you might need to go and see a doctor because they can notice a change in you." I think it's so important, so vitally important, that you do seek help from a professional, at least at the very beginning. You can then let them diagnose you, help. They will be able to see what is wrong with you, what is happening, and perhaps maybe get to the root cause of why you're feeling the way you're feeling. But then things like art or exercise and healthy eating, all these things can help pull somebody out of depression. But not those things alone. You do need to seek that professional help as well. I'm not saying take medication or anything like that. That's something that you would need to take up with your doctor. At the beginning, I took medication. Now, when I was very first given the medication, I was given Prozac, and Prozac turned me into a monster. I can remember one time I was out in the car and somebody cut me up, and I followed that car with a view to doing that person damage. And I followed the person into a Sainsbury's car park, and it was a woman who got out of the car with her child. Now, she didn't know I was following her or anything like that, but I stopped, and I just turned back around, and I got into my car, and I stopped taking that medication right there and then, and I told my doctor what had happened. So they put me on something different. They put me on a really old antidepressant, but it was also a medication that helped reduce the spasms that I was getting in my back, and that was amitriptyline. But when I was on amitriptyline, I had so many different side effects with it as well: stuttering, twitching, severely dry mouth, a craving for chocolate. I would get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and eat a full bar of dark chocolate. Now, I hate dark chocolate, hate it, but I needed, for some reason, my body craved that when I was on amitriptyline. And it took a long time for my body to get used to that medication. But I know a lot of people don't agree with antidepressant medication, and that's absolutely fine, but that's something that you need to discuss with your doctor, and they might be able to give you alternatives, especially if you go to your doctor quite early into perhaps feeling, if you're able to do that. But definitely seek out professional help, and then look at things like art or exercise or things like that that's going to help pull you out of the depression. I was lucky that's what happened to me, just through a suggestion from Neve, my daughter, because they didn't like the idea of me sitting in the house on my own. So that's my account of mental health and how it affected me, and how art literally saved my life, and the art community. Not just the art, but the art community as well. The people that I have met here, the people that have been so incredibly welcoming to me, and that have embraced me so warmly. It was really, really strange for me at first whenever that was happening. I couldn't understand why people were so nice, but obviously I soon just understood that people were nice because they're nice people in the art community, and I'm so very lucky and fortunate to have the people I have following the channel, and leaving comments and sending me emails and messages and stuff like that. I love all that stuff, and it really, really helps me on a day-to-day basis. When I'm busy and I'm doing all of this stuff, it prevents me from thinking about what's happened to me, remembering the actual injury, what happened during the injury. It just keeps my mind active, and so that's it. Thanks very much, guys. I know this has been a long video, really apologise for that, but thanks very much for watching it, and I hope you enjoyed seeing Coda there jump up and get his little self into the video. Thanks very much, guys. I'll see you all again in the next video. Bye.